Okay, well, I'm going to kick off and say welcome to everybody that's joined or in the process of joining. I'd like to welcome you to this first, what we call an early hands-on experience session around our experiences as Ultima for Copilot and what we've been learning. My name is Scott Dodds. I'm the CEO of Ultima. I'm delighted to be here with you today, and also joined by Matt Hudson, our pre-sales director. So he's on screen. Matt, you can say hello.
Hi.
So the first thing to say is we're gonna take this half an hour session. So they're snackable sessions. We've got another one coming up in a week's time and the week after that to keep you updated on the things that we're learning and things we're finding out about Copilot. There is a questions panel for you as you look at the session. We will take questions, and we'll try and do as many of those as we go through, because it's quite a quick session. And we've got another one next week. We'll make sure that we follow up with all the questions if we haven't got them asked or answered today. So without further ado, let me just kick straight in. So the whole concept of these sessions is really just to show you what we've been learning as an early access partner with Microsoft, and really learning how to use this and what it's like in the real world, as it were, rather than all the nice fancy, PowerPoints and various things that we've seen over the last few months. Now we've got some hands-on experience, we can start talking to you about it. So we're going to show you a little bit about what we've been learning and where it's going within Ultima. First thing to say is that we have a very long relationship with Ultima, between Ultima and Microsoft. And these are our kind of four big service practices that we have inside the business: cloud, security, workspace being huge for us, but data and AI has always been a big part of our relationship with Microsoft over the last few years, around what we did with automation and how we brought it through. So the concept of moving in to work with things like Copilot and OpenAI is very close to what we've been doing with Ultima Labs and some of the developments we've made over the last few years. So it was a natural step for us to get in very early with Microsoft. We also are very pleased to say that we have all 6 of Microsoft's accreditations now for the partner solutions programs, which is, we're one of a few companies that have all those accreditations, and indeed a number of great specialisms underneath that as well. So that's the story of where we are, how we got into this with Microsoft. I think what we want to do is to talk to you about a little bit about what it is. Then we're going to talk to you about the initial learnings and some of the things that we've learned about this, and we continue to learn about it on a daily basis. And then I'm going to rather scarily do a demo of what I've been doing and how I've been using it in terms of early adoption and some of the things that we're doing with the software here now in real time. So without further ado, let me click onto the next slide and ask Matt to take over and just kick off a little bit about some of the background to 365 Copilot.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you, Scott. So the M365 Copilot is obviously there's lots of Copilots out there. There's one for Dynamics and one for GitHub and so forth. But this particular one is around M365 Copilot. And what that does, it brings, I guess, 3 or 4 different things together. It brings that access to that large language model, which we are familiar with around ChatGPT and around Bing search. It brings that inside of your Microsoft 365 app. So instead of having to go out to a separate internet site to go ask ChatGPT, go and do something, we could do that from inside Outlook or from inside of Word or PowerPoint or Teams. But the most important thing of this is that Microsoft Graph. The ChatGPT has access to a bunch of information that you either feed it or that's accessible from the internet that it's built over the past number of years through GPT-3, 3.5 and 4. But with the Microsoft 365 Copilot, the key differentiation is the fact that it has access to your Microsoft Graph. So your data and your context-aware data. So information about you, who you are, information about who you're working with, who you're interacting with, who you're sharing files with, what meetings you've had this week, what meetings you had last week, how many recurring meetings you have. It also has information around documents that you've created, documents that you've saved previously, and even documents that are in a shared environment like SharePoint or in a Teams share site. So the difference between this and ChatGPT is really the fact that it understands who you are, how you work, and how you're going to do things, and that is surfaced inside of Word, so you can be creative around a proposal you're creating and bring information in from the internet, but also from an email or from inside of Outlook. You can get it to send an email to somebody in a certain context or use information from a PowerPoint presentation that you created. So it's really is key that you understand that there is a ChatGPT or the Bing chat, but actually this brings all that rich information about yourself and how you interact inside of your applications. So, in fact, we've already had a question which I think from Scott, a different Scott, about the minimum license count. So right now, as we stand there, the minimum license count for you to get access to Microsoft Copilot 365, you have to commit to 300 seats, and it's only for enterprise customers right now. So you have to have an enterprise agreement, and you have to commit to 12 months worth of 300 seats. Going forward, that may change. It's next year, there's likely this will come to CSP customers, and also it's possible that that 300 user count may reduce as well. But even if it does reduce, it's unlikely it's going to reduce massively, because the actual cost and setup of Copilot and the semantic index and the Microsoft Graph information has to bring in, and it has to build individual indexes for every single user you enable across your entire Microsoft stack within your business. It's a huge overhead to be able to do that. So at the moment, that 300 user count is very much where we are right now. There's also a bunch of other things that we have to do as part of that as well. So there's a minimum requirement around E3. You have to have E3 to be able to enable this, because the Microsoft Graph indexing occurs at that level. E5 is very much recommended though, due to the compliance and security that you do. And actually a lot of that security, compliance and enablement and all the configuration you've got to do is something that Ultima offer as a readiness assessment. So we'll talk about it later on. But if there's a load of questions around how am I going to turn it on, what functions I need to turn on, what security do I need, am I ready for this, what I'm going to need to do, instead of talking about it for 3 to 4 hours on a webinar, actually you can book an assessment through us, and we'll tell you descriptively where you are, where you need to be, what the risks are and what the challenges are, and what the next steps are. So the next thing, and this is really the key, before we get on to the one more slide and then into detail, the most important thing about the Microsoft 365 Copilot is that semantic index that I spoke about previously around Graph. This is the thing that makes Copilot aware of who you are and how you work, who you interact with, who you chat with. And it's so important that in general search functions, you can't just ask Outlook, like, you ask Outlook a question, it's not going to know what that question means. The large language model that the Bing search brings you does do that for you, allows you to ask it simple questions, but what it doesn't do with a search function is allow it to be context aware of what it is you're up to. So if you ask search, find me a Tom's sales numbers for September, or you type in the Outlook, Tom's sales number September, it's just going to search every single email that you've ever created with the words Tom sales numbers in September, and it might give you a rough top 3 that it thinks that you might want to look at. It really doesn't really know what you're looking for. A semantic index looks at all your files, all your chats. It correlates a chat with a user with an email that you sent them, with a calendar entry for a meeting that you had with them last week, with a meeting you're going to have with them next week. So it understands what you're doing, where you've been, what you're going to do next. And all that information allows you to be able to ask it a question such as, what are Tom's sales numbers for September? And it knows that every month I receive the sales numbers. And it knows that Tom is a salesperson, and it knows that I'm asking for specifically his revenue or whatever number I'm looking for. So it's able to understand the question I'm asking it based on the emails and the chats I receive. And actually, it's also not limited to the thing I'm looking in. So I'm looking in Outlook, or I'm looking in or Teams. It'll actually look across my entire graph. So in that instance where I might ask it, Outlook, find this file, and then I have to dig into the file and whatever, it might take 2, 3, 4 minutes to find it. And it turns out it's actually not in Outlook, it was in a Teams chat, or it was in a file that gets put up to a Teams site. Semantic index doesn't care about that. It will be looking at your entire graph as a whole. There's already been indexed and continually indexes as you move along, and it will actually know, okay, I'm going to bring out that information to you. I know that Tom is a salesperson. I know that the salesman you're looking for. And then when it brings that information, I can then go, okay, what about Tim's numbers? What about Fred's numbers? What about Bill's numbers? And it's already aware of what I'm looking at and what I'm using. So it understands what the next question I'm asking and what I might need to dig into. So that's really key. So that data is personal to you. Each person gets their own semantic index, and each person is unique to the access to the files that they have themselves, or that person has. So Lastly, on kind of the setting the scene a little bit about what it is and what it does, we have so there's kind of 3 flavors to the Microsoft entry point for Chat GPT access, or Bing Chat and access. We have Bing Chat, of course, which users are already using right now. There are probably a lot of people across the organizations out there who are using Bing Chat, whether knowingly or unknowingly. There's Bing Chat Enterprise, which is the enterprise version of Bing Chat. What that brings is a data compliance element for Bing Chat. So exactly the same, no difference, but the only difference is when you ask a question or feed it information because you want to build a narrative or you want to build a prompt or set of prompts, that data is secured. It's your data, you're passing it to it, but it's not using it for any other purposes. You're not sending it blindly across the internet to a search engine. It's really important for security compliance there. Now, if you haven't got this already, I'd highly recommend it for 2 reasons. One is you're going to people are using it anyway, so you might as well secure it. And the second one is if you're going to use M365 Copilot, it's a really good idea to be able to get users used to kind of understanding how to use prompts, how to interface with a large language model, and how to kind of get the most out of that functionality that a large language model brings to the user base. And like I said, they're going to use it anyway. And Bing Chat just not very securely. And then finally, the Copilot adds all that context awareness inside of your application. So it knows who you are, it has your security boundaries of your context and your content, and it allows you to surface that information directly through Microsoft 365 applications like Outlook. Cool. Oh, by the way, to get Bing Chat Enterprise, you need E3 or E5 right now, or A3 or A5. I think F3 is coming, I think early next year.
Great, thanks, Matt. So at this point, we just wanted to do a quick chat on the learnings and some of the things we've been doing. I think you mentioned already, Matt, about the security side. So I mean, the big question is how do you secure the data and make sure that what has Copilot got access to? So you've kind of touched on that already, but there's a couple of examples you had already of learning about how it indexes.
So just to be clear, so the index is personal to you. So every single person has their own index, which means every single index is personal to that person and their security boundary. So it's really important to understand that you're not opening up security holes or security concerns in your business by enabling Copilot. That certainly isn't the case, because if you have access to a file, or you have access to an email, or you have access to a chat, so does Copilot. It doesn't have access to stuff that you don't as a user. So it's very personalized, it's very contextual to your thing. And I didn't test it. I accidentally came across a test where I asked it a few weeks ago, who's the best person at Ultima to speak to about Citrix? And it's quite cool. It came back with the fact that, oh yeah, you need to go speak to this person over here in Alliances. They manage the Citrix relationship for Ultima. It's like, cool, great. And they said, also, go speak to Tom in sales. He emails Citrix a lot. And that immediately kind of raised alarm bells. Like, actually, is this looking at Tom's data now? Is this doing stuff around that it shouldn't be doing? But in reality, it turns out, after a bit of more digging, Tom had CC'd me on a bunch of emails to Citrix over the past few months, and I realized that he was reading my index, reading my information that I happen to be CC'd on. So just be clear, it's only your data. So you need to make sure that if the data you shouldn't have access to, that you stop that, because what this will do is it will open up access. It will allow you to get to this data quicker and easier. Yeah. So I'm going to ask for a couple of questions actually to you, Scott, around kind of the user access around Copilot, but also around how to, I guess, effectively end user get the best experience out of it, and what kind of training is going to be required. So how they're going to get to it, and what sort of things they need to know.
Yeah, so the first thing, we're going to show a demo in a second, which will give you some idea of how it's operating in the real world. But the first thing to say is that it works best today on the web applications that are kind of called the new version of Outlook, the new version of Word, new version of PowerPoint. These things, they're all the web version. So within the browser, that's where most of the Copilot stuff actually happens. It is being rolled out more and more into the full fat applications that sit on your device, but actually the experience is better at the moment on the web app version. So we'll show you that in a minute, how that's actually coming together. I think over time this is going to change. I think you'll see different things come in. I mean, even we've been using it now for only a couple of weeks in anger, and everything's changing. Things are changing. New buttons come in. version. So there's a lot of learning to be done. And actually, to your point about learning, one of the things that we're really seeing is that it is a completely different way of working. So thinking of it as just another button that you use within PowerPoint or Word is definitely the wrong way to think about this. It's more to do with, and I'll show you another example of a website that Microsoft have got, where it talks about how it's almost like learning to be a manager. It's like having an employee working for you. You have to coach and train and develop and give clear, instructions about what they want to do, and they will learn. It will learn over time how you work. So it's much more, of a complex relationship with this thing over time than just to click a button and it does a simple task. It's actually about how it learns what you do, and then how it starts to get much more sophisticated in the way it supports you. So we'll try and show you some of that in a minute, but over the next few weeks, we'll start to drip feed a little bit more of this into these sessions, so you can see how we learn about it, and also how it's kind of developing with the software itself inside these applications. So I'll go on to that as I get to that. Before we get to that, I was going to ask you, Matt, about your kind of need to verify the accuracy and what that means. So I was going to talk about how you get more accurate with this, and how you trust it, make sure it's not something you take for granted when it comes back with a response, that's the actual answer.
Yeah, so one of the things, actually, as part of our rollout, we've had to educate our users that this is a tool that you're using. This is not a replacement for your job. This is not someone doing your job for you. So in the same way that you would delegate some work to one of your employees or to one of your team, you're still accountable and you're still responsible for the output that person creates. So as a manager or as a leader, I go out there and I ask someone to do something. If I just blindly forward that data off, or blindly forward that thing off to the customer or to someone else in our business, if it's wrong, it's still me. It's still me that gets beaten up by you, Scott, when it's not correct. So it's so it's really important that people understand you're delegating tasks. You are a manager of Copilot. You're telling it things to do, and when it returns stuff or returns quality output and whatever, that you need to check it. You need to verify it's correct. Yeah. Or if it's important, you verify it's correct. If it's not important, then whatever. But it's your accountability, your responsibility. Yeah, I think, Scott, now's a good time to probably go onto the demo and of what you're doing, and probably show people where you're seeing a lot of value out of it yourself.
Let's go on to the demo. Let's show what we're going to show here. So this is really just to show you some real world examples of how I've been using it in the last few weeks to try and generate some content that we need to do actually for events like this. So I'm going to show you some of the applications. There's also an interesting one, which is Paint, which I don't know if you've seen yet, the new version of Paint inside Windows 11, which has some of that in there. So let me just drop out of this. So hopefully now you can see my screen. So this is just a web page. So you can see here that everything I'm doing is within the web browser. Okay, so I've got Word here, I've got OneDrive up, I've got PowerPoint up as well, and I've got some web pages. This, by the way, is something you should go and look at. This is the latest work trend index from Microsoft, which talks a lot about the earlier users, all the kind of early adoption processes that have been going on the last 3 or 4 months or 8 months actually inside Microsoft. And it's giving you some real world feedback on what that looks like and what the ROI is in some of these things. So as an example, what we've done here and what I've decided to do is I took a cut of this. I literally copied this straight down as I'm doing here, copied this whole document down and copied it into Word. So literally as you see it from a straight cut and paste. And so what it's done is it's put it here into Word. So I'm now inside Word here. As you can see, I've clicked the Copilot button now. So I've got this dialog on the right hand side inside this Word document. So I can actually start editing this document that I've created. You can see it's cut in. I'll look it down here. It's cut in all the graphics. It's cut in the words. It's put some links in. It's got other graphics down the bottom. So it's just literally a complete snapshot of what that website was talking about. So I wanted to do a report on this. So the first thing to say is I can go to the right here and add questions. I can add things, summarize this document, whatever, and do the analysis on it. I can get different prompts. If I click on prompt here, I can look at how I create things. It'll give me examples on the right-hand side here of how I can go and add paragraphs or whatever. And so there's a lot of sophistication in here that we're still learning about all the different things it can do. And also back to the point about prompt engineering, learning how to ask it the right questions is obviously a critical element of this. But if I show you this as an example, so before I do anything with this, I can just click on here. If I click on the document that I've just created, it pops up with a little draft with Copilot icon. So I can now click that and say, Add, bear with me on the typing side, add a paragraph. I can even spell it wrong, about the relationship, between Microsoft topical conversation of and OpenAI. A lot going on there in that world at the moment, as I'm sure everyone's caught up with. So if I click generate there, it's now going to go away within. So I'm doing this inside the document rather than with a separate Copilot box. And it's now pulling things together. You can see it doing it. It's coming up with a paragraph that it's found on that topic, right? So it's now introducing that into my document. I've had to look at it. I can say here, as an example, I can now say, make it more concise. So make it more concise, click on that. It'll go in and it'll reduce it down. It'll start to revise what it's produced. And so make it a little bit more, compact. And there it's come back with something. It's not massively compact, more compact, but it's a bit better. So I'm going to say, yes, I'm going to keep it now. And it's now part of my document. And I can go through that and add things and remove things and ask it questions and ask it to do more formatting. So at this point, I've now created my document. I've got the data, the raw data in here. What I actually wanted to do was to go and make a PowerPoint presentation out of this so I could present, hopefully, to the people watching this seminar. So here it is. This is the live. It's just updated that document. So this is the live OneDrive view of that document in my demo. So if I now click on that, I can now basically copy the link here. So if I copy that link, and now I go back into my PowerPoint version of the online PowerPoint application. Now you can see again, here it is, there's Copilot button in here. And what I want to do is create a presentation from a file. So what I do now is I go down here and I actually copy that file, paste it straight into that dialogue now, and it will go away and hopefully, if the demo gods are with me, hopefully build a presentation based on that. Literally what I've done is I've copied a web page from Microsoft with a whole bunch of data on the new user experience of Copilot. You can see on the right hand side now, it's building an index of slides off that document to show what are the things that it should talk about. So it's now creating this long list of slides. You'll see how it builds in a second, hopefully, to show you exactly how it's creating the document. So it's now generating the slides. It's gone away to look at all these as headings. So it's picked out the headings, what it thinks are headings, and then the dialogue below it is going to be the content of those slides as it builds out. So what you've done, I've created this in a blank form today. We are working, and Matt and his team are working on how we then bring in our own templates for this, and that's a slight nuance to this that we're learning how to do. You'll be able to bring down the Ultima template for a document or for a presentation, and then have that already in that format. So there you go. Hopefully you can see that now on your screen. So it comes back and it tells you what it's done. I've drafted 24 slides and made some changes. We've added also some speaker notes and applied layouts and added a public sensitivity label to this deck. We have the sensitivity label set inside Ultima, so you have to set it for public or private or whatever. So it's done that, made it a public one instantly. And you can see here it's just created the document. And if I scale up here, you'll see that it's also put some notes in. And there's an example here on this slide where it's actually taken the graphic and it's worked out what the wording should be on the side of that graphic, or at least what its representation should be, and added that to the slide. It's also gone away in this case and created a piece of imagery for me to go and stick by the graphics or by the wording inside the document. So you can see how it's working out here. So if I say now on this particular slide, let's actually do this way around. So add an image of a, what should we say here, of a data center. Now, what it should do, hopefully, is go away and it should add that image to this. It's going away and search all the images it's got, searching the internet now as well, and all the things it's right. So there you go. It's come back with a slightly different format. So it said, here's an image. I've added a data center picture at the top. I've left the other one at the bottom, and I've made a slight change to the way the format of the slide looks. So it's pretty cool. So it looks good.
On that one, Scott. as well. So it turns out we've found out today as well that you talk about templates where you can put your own templates in here, understands what they are and where to put text. There's also, you can put your own image library in here as well, so that you use images and it'll index those images. You've got 100, 200, we have access to a third-party image library. We can bring that into this, so it uses your images, not just generic Microsoft ones.
Well, I mentioned before I was about Paint. Paint is an application that I've very rarely used, but it has this thing called Co-Creator in it now. And if I was to do a crazy thing, say this is using DALL-E, so this is using the image generator as part of OpenAI. It will go away. If I've said here, a Labrador dog sitting at a PC in office in Manhattan in the background, make it photorealistic. I click on that now, it'll go away and hopefully create some options for me on an image that I could create. So from a marketing perspective, you can create these images, you can start to build out some unique imagery for your presentations and your documents as you go forward. And there you go. So what's it come up with? There you go, that's not a bad one. So that's a picture of a Labrador at a PC. That's another one, I like that one, so I'll take that one and I'll click on that and I'll say copy it, edit, copy, and then I'll go back to my presentation, hopefully. And let me see, I'll go to let's say the agenda slide for whatever reason, and I'll paste that. I'll do a quick paste of that document, of that thing back in. Actually, it's not letting me do that. Paste him again. There we go. Let's see if it'll do. There you go. So it's put the paste in there. And now if I go to designer, it will just allow me to come up with some ideas, should be generating ideas of how that could look, and maybe that's how the thing should look in the front page. And now you can see I've put my image, I've created my image, I've stuck in the presentation, it's automatically formed it using designer and Copilot. And you get a very strong sense of how fast it is to produce this. So now we can go down to the end of the slide and look at things like, here was talking about what the user feedback, how many hours and minutes were saved on the various meetings. And so now I can literally start presenting that to you, if it can show me on the screen. And there's a slide, and it starts to talk about the things that we were wanting to demonstrate in these sessions, is how do you make it more productive, where that data has come from, all this new data from Microsoft. So I hope that gives you a very, very fast overview of how to build these things in real time. And we're going to do more of these over the next few sessions to enable you to see how this thing works, and also to start introducing you to the concepts about how you want to play with it. We want to try within Ultima over the next few weeks and months is to get you into some test pilot environments where you can come in and play with this, even if you haven't got it in your own tenants yet, to be able to learn how to do this yourselves. So if I go back to the presentation and make sure we've got the last few minutes here, hopefully that gives you some sense of where this is going. Matt, very, very quickly, the last minute or two, here's some ideas for the adoption strategy and some of the services we're building around this.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think, really quickly, we've only got a minute left, I think. So I think the key thing back here, there's a bunch of technology stuff you've got to do. You've got to make sure that your data is in the right kind of state, like governed well. You've got to make sure that people have the right access to stuff, and even go through and start removing stuff that probably isn't relevant anymore. So there's a bunch of technology stuff around making sure your support teams know how to support this. There's a bunch of configuration, and even out of the box, you can't just turn it on. Things like AI, what used to be called AIP is now called something else, I can't remember. But that AIP affects the way that Copilot works, because it can't see certain files or can see it depending on who you are. So you need to make sure technology-wise it's all there. But more importantly, it's the people side. You need to make sure that they understand how to use this technology. You can't just turn it on and let people. We've noticed we spent a lot of time over the past few weeks. Scott, particularly, you can tell by his amazing PowerPoint skills, has spent a lot of time over the last few weeks learning how to use this, and we're pretty good at Office already, and we know kind of what we're doing. But there are other people that don't know how to utilize Office particularly well already. So actually giving them an additional tool on top of it, they're going to need to know how to use it, how to prompt it, how to continually train that person, continually make sure they know what they're doing. So it's critical that we blend those two, technology and people, together, and make sure that we deliver, we assess it, we prepare it, we trial it out to your business, and we show the real return on value you're going to get. Yeah. There's a bunch of stuff that we do around there which we can help you adopt these services. So
there's more detail on that to come. We're going to time out, but we wanted to leave you with this. Get started with Bing Chat Enterprise. Make sure you use the enterprise version, which is more secure. If you're an IP inside your organization, you should stop people using ChatGPT with your corporate data. So just get into that. If you've got a license for Microsoft, you're already licensed for it. Get ready with the assessments we've just talked about, and obviously we can review the base licensing for E3 and E5 and whatever else you've got to run the organization. The last thing to say is We're going to do more of these. We've obviously timed out a little bit here today. Quite a lot to capture, but we'll learn from that and we'll get your feedback. Please do feed us back. There's another session next Wednesday, 29th at 2 p.m. We're going to add more learnings, more application demos, some of the things that we're learning as we go through the next couple of weeks. So with that, anything else to add, Matt, before we say thank you?
I think that's all, yeah. And get in contact if you want a SAP readiness assessment. We're out doing them right now.
Absolutely. So thanks for joining. Really appreciate the time. I know it's very, very busy. Everybody's got busy diaries. So it's great to see everybody online, and we'll look forward to catching up at the next one. So hopefully see you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.